Shoot first, don't ask questions. We ain't waiting on no revenge. They gonna end up dead anyway.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amanda Ray with the Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival, and I am really geeky right now. I'm just like tripping out because I have RT Thorne here with me, the director of the extremely popular 40 Acres. Welcome, RT.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, I don't even, we have so much to kind of go into and talk about with this film. You've been doing a lot of interviews, and I've been, keeping up and trying to keep up with all of them, the Breakfast Club, all these different interviews everywhere, which is really, really exciting. And I'm just happy for you in general, of all the things that all the great, things you've been receiving with this film. I'm just super excited to see you get your flowers on this first film of yours. So congratulations.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So, for me, as people know, I'm a film festival organizer and director for the Atlanta Sci-Fi Film Festival. So I'm a huge movie buff, right? That's why I got into, running a film festival. But obviously, I've watched thousands upon thousands of films, I think, in my lifetime. And unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on how you look at it, I'm going to be very critical when it comes to films. And kind of hard to impress. But this film, it moved me literally to tears. Everyone saw that I had to go live after watching the film straight out of the theater, like fresh out. And I was filled with so much emotion. And I honestly do think it's, just one of the most powerful, empowering and inspiring films since Black Panther. So how does it make you feel to hear compliments like that?
I mean, when I saw you, honestly, when I saw your video, it moved me. You know what I mean? And I just gotta say, it's a blessing. It's a blessing to, to touch people with what you create, like in the way that you were touched when you saw something. When you see great cinema, when we see great cinema, it really taps into the humanity of us, and you feel yourself in it in so many ways. And it's an absolute dream to be able to, move people and touch people with the work. So your video gave me such joy. And, there's so many people in this journey, have sent me videos or that I've seen reactions, and that it touched them and it moved them. And it's the greatest feeling in the world, and it's an absolute blessing and honor. So thank you for that. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. You're welcome. You're welcome. And thank you for sharing your gift of filmmaking. It's filmmakers like you that inspire me to do what I do, to support you guys as much as possible. And sometimes it can be very, very hard. But I think anyone that runs a film festival is not doing it because they see a whole bunch of money.
You're only the highest paid. You're not the highest paid people in the world.
No, we're not.
And I think and when we corresponded, after I saw your post, I meant every word. What you do, sharing film work and people's expressions is so vital and so important, especially to Black artists who our window of exhibition of getting our art out there is so narrow and so restricted in so many places. And it's vital for people like yourself that are curators of and that want to share and project these ideas and these thoughts and these conversations out there through film. And I'm greatly indebted to you, and I think the community is, and I just think what you do is so wonderful. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Thank you. That really means a lot to me because, like I said, we work really hard in doing this festival every year. Great, lessons and stuff into you from what I read. What did she say after watching the movie? And did she share did she share any advice with you at all? Like, just as you're growing in the industry, because it seems like, she's just laid this beautiful foundation for you. So I was just curious to know when she first saw it, what did she
Yeah.
say?
She saw it at the premiere. So she saw it at the premiere in Toronto at TIFF.
Hmm.
Um, and I was a little nervous. I had to tell her in advance. I just said, "Look, Mom, it's a little violent because she's
A
not.
little.
I'm a genre kid. I love genre and I love action and I love suspense and horror and all those things. She's not. So, so I had to let her know, but I said, I think you'll see parts of us in there, And so when she saw it, she said it was violent. But she was like, I see I see the parts that you took from our lives and she's like I see what's in there and I know that it's good for people to see it and for them to be able to understand what discipline is and she said it had heart. So I'm grateful for that.
How does she feel about you and just in the industry? Does she have any kind of
Funny.
extra advice she might have given you that might have been different than what she's given you before?
Not so much. I think nowadays she kind of just she trusts that I'm on a pretty solid path from what she laid for me. I think in the beginning of my career, um, you know, I'm lucky. I'll say this. Look, I'm lucky. I'm hardworking, but there is an element of luck as well that falls into when you chase this kind of a thing. And I think for me, the first piece of luck was that my brother he he became a lawyer for the family. So he did the lawyer thing. So that allowed my mom to,
Nice.
all right, all right, all right. We got one in the family. You know, we can see what this younger one wants to do. He got a little bit more rope to so I was lucky in that regard. And then I
Hmm.
think my mom recognized the type of person that I am. And I'm the type of person, if I love something, if my heart is into it, I'll do it nonstop. You can't get me away from it. I'll put in all the hard work and double. And so she knew that about me, and she knew that I couldn't go into something that my heart wasn't into. So she saw that I was into storytelling and arts and music and she gave us a lot of that background too. She the space to explore that stuff. So the only thing I'll say, the advice that she gave me at the beginning of my career, which was like, all right, so you want to get into like film and TV and stuff, and I was like, yeah, like, you know, I was like, what about film? And she's like, no, film, you're just gonna have to chase people around for money, and it's not guaranteed. So she was like, you're gonna get
Hmm.
television, follow the television route because at least there's guaranteed contracts in that. So she was smart, financially
Wow.
from the beginning, had an understanding of the difference between the industries. And so I went into a community college program that was more focused on getting me a television job. And so my first job was actually at our what was the equivalent to our MTV. It was a station
Nice.
station station up here in Toronto called Much Music, and they played music videos.
Hmm.
And she knew that I could get a contract, for the year or whatever that would pay
Hmm.
salary. And I followed that
Little
advice.
steady check.
Yeah, and then that's what got me into doing music videos. And then after that, I went the entrepreneur route. I came off of, I left that company and I went and I started doing my own music videos. But it was that foundation that was always like, hey, think think financially about what you're doing and plan and then follow your dream. And so I'd say, that was the best advice that she gave me and it took.
Wow. That's really, really cool advice because not many people know the difference between, television and film in terms of the the money and stuff. And I think, I mean, obviously a lot of that knowledge is out now or whatever, but that's still not something that's everyone, knows the difference between the
Yeah.
two, especially when it comes to money and getting residuals and the back end or all those things we hear about a little bit here and there. Most people don't pay attention, especially to tell a kid which direction to go in if they're interested. So yeah. I had a feeling she would kind of give you a little bit more direction in that. That's why I asked that question, because I kind of had a feeling she would at least kind of point you a little bit in the right direction. I mean, even if she was hands off, like you said, she gave you so much foundation that to grow off of, that she could just sit back and be like, I know he's gonna be good. She
Yeah.
could sit back like Lawrence Fishburne in Boys in the Hood with the ball, knowing you're going to make the right decisions. Everyone talked a lot about the film and Danielle Deadweiler's character being this really, strong mother, fighting for her family and her son, which is obviously true and extremely powerful in itself. But for me, it really symbolized the ongoing battle and fight that Black people face every single day. And not just here in the US, but, for you, like in Canada and, pretty much all over. And watching Haley, Danielle Wilder's character, get knocked down over and over again, bloodied, and she's still getting up and has the fight, the strength to keep fighting back over and over again. It felt so connected to like our story. So how do you think seeing the strong character like Haley can impact younger generations today, especially young single mothers raising their sons, or even just young single people, just trying to find their strength in life?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's well documented now that, the relationship in the film is very heavily sort of based on my mother and myself. And, I speak a lot about it. My mom gave me the greatest foundation. She's the single most important influence in my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I think I definitely think there was an aspect of me that I just wanted to like, I wanted to like immortalize her like on film.
Mm-hmm. You did.
And make this, make the superhero version of her, you know what I mean? Like, but I think it's just it's vital, especially again, as I come back to seeing Black heroes and aspirational Black family. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see a family that bonds together, loves each other deeply. I wanted the film to have a lot of love, even though it's a dark, dystopian, post-apocalyptic, horror action thriller. But to be that love in there and show what hard work and what discipline can create. I wanted to tell the legend of this family and of Haley Freeman. And I think it's vital for us to keep having those expressions, and they should be varied and different and wonderful. You know what I mean? But it's vital for us to keep creating these characters that come from our lives, that we can see the nuance and the all the aspects of who we are as people, the joy, the laughter, the sarcasm in our own families, you know what I mean? The real talk, like, her telling her son, I gotta talk all that. I got it. Let's go. Like, that's
Exactly.
my mom. My mom's like, I don't need to hear all that. Let's go.
That's right. That's real.
That's real. And bring some of that reality to these characters that we put in these movies, so that, future generations can see themselves, they can see their families, and then hopefully that it can inspire some hope and some love. Even like I said, even though this is a dark one, I hope that people see the love in this family and they're inspired by it, and know that the world can be tough, but you can still have that love within your family unit, and that's what's going to get you through. So,
Yeah.
I know I've been hard on y'all. Takes hard work to survive. Ain't nobody pushing the seed through the soil, is there?
Oh, man.
I think you did a beautiful balance of that, showing that side, even though you have this very brutal world that she's trying to raise her child up in, you do see this, agape love with all of them, and even with the community. Is this a great balance with that? Because most films, some films you just see is all apocalyptic. You don't see no brightness, no hope, no family, no gathering, no support, no nothing. So it's really important to be able to see that balance. And, I definitely believe in giving Black boys in particular a brighter perspective of the world. I think it's crucial to their survival. I knew a woman in our family who she was so deathly afraid of her sons, and she had 4 sons going to jail, end up in jail. So she constantly kept telling them, if you keep that up, you're going to end up in jail. You keep that up, you're going to end up in jail. And I think that they internalized those words, but the word that stuck in their subconscious was end up in jail,
Yeah.
because she didn't give them an alternative. She didn't give them, okay, these are your options, so that they see more than one path. She kept subconsciously drilling in their head one path. And of course, they ended up, two of them, I think, did end up either in jail or like a boys' home for, violent teens, stuff like that. And so, it's really crucial to be able to do that. But she never offered them that alternative vision for their lives. And so, some people say that when you prepare someone only for the worst, you can actually lead them toward the very thing that they're fearing the most. You prepare them for this world that's going to beat them down, that's going to do that, this, that, and the third to them. But you're kind of setting them up for failure in a way. So I know your mom wasn't as heavy-handed, obviously, as Danielle Wilder's character in the film.
And let's be
She
clear,
was not militant.
mom is
She was
not a
like
military, killer.
tell her
Let's just
mama going around.
please don't know that I'm not out here talking about that.
No, 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 not at all. And there's nothing wrong with, someone like Danielle Wallace's character who raises her family with a very firm and iron fist in a way. But at the same time, that definitely, was not what your mom was at all. But, she did raise you to be, ready for the ugly side of the world. What other, like, more positive perspectives did she give you to balance that out? Because we still see that in the film, right? We still see that nice balance. So, what else did she kind of give you so that way you don't create that world that she's trying to actually prepare you for, or those
Right,
experiences in
right.
that world?
Well, and I think that's a big theme in the film. Look, my mother, she came to this country, she's Trinidadian immigrant. She came to this country for a better life, and wanted her kids to have a better life than she had when she was growing up. And obviously, when she got here, she faced a lot of discrimination and a lot of hardships, and and so that was a lot of the stuff she was preparing us for. She was like, okay, get ready, because this is what this world is going to be like. Um, but as you say, you have to balance those things. Those are your experiences, and as a parent, you come in and you confront different experiences, and you have to also realize that, well, my children are growing up in a world that is constantly evolving. They may have different experiences, so that the importance of realizing that your experience might not be their experience is vital.
Mm-hmm.
And in
Mm-hmm.
that, surrounding them with some of the the opportunities and the beauty that is in this new world that you're creating for them. And I think my mom did that very well. Our house was filled with music all the time. It was filled with
Nice.
literature, and as well movies. My mom loved movies, and she took us to the theater to go see lots of movies, as we were growing up, and just exposed us to something that she didn't necessarily have that much of in Trinidad, but she was like, "You're gonna see all of this stuff." And then she's like, "You're gonna think about this stuff too. You're not just gonna take this in and you know, it might all seem rosy on these screens, but here's the background to it. Here's you're gonna read these books. You're gonna give me book reports. You're gonna show me that you can think critically about this. You know, whose point of view are you watching this through? Those kinds of conversations about interpreting what we're experiencing as well was very important as well. So she surrounded us with a home that had all of that, and these different colors, I think, end up giving you hope and end up, especially the critical thinking aspect of that. You give people a lot of things to take in, and then you get them to sort of analyze and think about it. And what that does, I think, for my young mind at the time was um, it it allowed me to escape into, you know, these worlds,
Right.
um,
Right.
and know that there's more than my 4 blocks that's around my.
Hmm.
And sometimes that's the difficulty, is if you just see the 4 blocks that you live in, sometimes that can feel really dark if it's a dark,
Right.
you know, and you start to lose that hope, you know. So
Hmm.
there, you know, I was a comic book nerd. I remember reading very vividly. I remember reading the autobiography of Malcolm X as a book that we had to read, and my mom wanted us to talk to her about. And then I remember reading, you know, Professor X and Magneto, and being like, I'm like, whoa, like, wait a second. Professor X and the X-Men are kind of like one
Uh-huh.
thing, you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And fighting against prejudice, and Malcolm X is kind of like Magneto, like he's kind of militant about it and saying, you know, we don't have to take. So I would see these, you know, real world historical references in these
Hmm.
characters and in these worlds. And it gave me a place to escape to, but also to be aware of. So
Right.
it was a, yeah, she gave us that. And I think I will say it was one of the most important things for me to do, to show, for instance, Manny, having having a space of that, yeah, you
Hmm.
know, this dark world that he lives in. I wanted to show a different form of masculinity with him, you know, that we don't,
Mm.
a lot of black men have in a lot of films, you know, this kind of a stereotype of black men, or black boys becoming men in a
Hmm.
lot of films. And I wanted him to be vulnerable and a little naive and, you know, a little awkward. I wanted to show some different versions of black male, you know, maleness in this film. You know, you can see, okay, he takes care of business when he needs to take care of business, but he's kind of awkward. He's kind of nerdy. He
Yeah.
kinda know how to act sometimes, you know. And
Hmm.
I like that. I like characters that are flawed and they don't know what to do
Hmm.
all the time.
Right.
You know, that's life. So yeah.
Hmm. It seems like she also created such a beautiful, safe space for you and your siblings at home, and that shields you from that outside world, right? So my mom definitely did the same thing, and tried to just make this safe space so that we didn't have to worry. You know, you put your armor and you're prepared, almost
Mm.
literally in the film, right? So when they left the farm and they was leaving, they had to make sure that they were ready for anything they encountered. But when they came back in their safe space, they can be themselves. They, you know, and everyone contributed to that experience in that safe home. So it was very symbolic in that way too, which was really beautiful. There was just so much in this film. The music was great. The cinematography was perfect. I mean, the fight scenes were exceptional. Everything in this film was really stellar. But what ended up on the cutting floor? Was there anything that you felt like if you had a little bit more money, a little bit more time, because I know they crunched it all. I know you know, it's hard. It's hard. I get it. But was there anything you was like, oh man, if I could have, but I know we couldn't put it in there, but if I could, what would
Mm.
that be?
Yeah, I mean, there was, I think a lot of the characters, they just had more scenes where they got to flourish a little bit, and you got to see different aspects of their home life together, you know. There's a great scene that's like Danielle and the girls, there's a scene where they're dancing, you know. You know, because the girls have they have this old like 8-bit video game, like it's one of those dance games, and you know they play it on the monitors, the all the surveillance monitors,
Oh,
and Haley kind of stumbles in on them. They're supposed to be out, you know, doing their thing or watching the monitors, and they're dancing, and then she kind of comes over and she's a little pissed off, and then they start dancing, and then she starts dancing.
yeah. Oh,
It was a really fun
yeah.
scene. Unfortunately, it didn't
Mm-hmm.
land it well. And then there's an undercurrent of another uh of Cookie, um,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sort of a cautionary. It's on the Blu-ray. So this one's on the
Oh, I
Blu.
was going to ask you if you added stuff on there.
This is on the Blu-ray. So I put the deleted scenes on the Blu-ray, and
Mm-hmm.
there's essentially a sort of a little bit of a story about Cookie and how Cookie is being raised strictly on this farm. Her whole life has been on this farm, been in this sort of military-esque training, and doesn't really have what Manny and the older kids may have, especially Manny. Manny remembers a
Mm-hmm.
time with his grandfather of
Right.
community, of
Mm-hmm.
of kindness, of people helping strangers. So he remembers that. So that's where some of Manny's sort of more kinder, gentler feelings come from. He knows about that. But Cookie has grown up strictly on this, like, there's no one's friendly.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do what we got to do. You got to take out who you need to take out. So Cookie's been growing up in a very different way, and there's a scene where she kind of confronts Haley, um, where Haley's, worried about Dennis, who's been shot and who's
Mm-hmm.
laying in bed, and Cookie comes in, and Cookie's very dismissive of her own sister,
Wow.
like very dismissive, like, oh, doesn't look like she's gonna make it, and just doesn't seem to, and that
Mm-hmm.
moment where Haley is kind of taken aback because she's like, wait a second, my youngest, there's a disconnect here, you know?
Right.
It's a moment for Haley to sort of reflect on how she has been raising them, and concerned about that. And I wanted that kind of dimension of, a parent just reflecting on how strict is too strict, how hard is too hard, and those kinds of thinking.
Yes.
I wanted to
Yeah.
introduce that idea because, you know,
Mm-hmm.
Haley's doing her best, but as we all know, sometimes we think we're trying to do the best, and like you said, with your, the person that you knew, in your family, or whatnot, this person might be driving their children
Mm-hmm.
inadvertently to a darker place. So that was a scene that I really miss. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but again, it just couldn't fit in the narrative of the film.
Well, I look forward to seeing some of those little extra bits in the DVD for sure.
Yeah,